Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Let's get started with our guest today. First question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, Sean. Thank you. My name is Gina Matteson, and I'm the CEO and founder of GemTek. GemTek focuses on 3 areas, which is talent acquisition, business and technology solutions, and our HR for hire services.
Oh, fantastic. Question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
That's a good question. So when I thought about this question, teams to me means a couple of different things in my organization. Teams can be a group of candidates, it can be a group of clients, it can be a group of a mixture or a project that I'm working on. So when it comes to teams, regardless of the size, I think the absolute most important part to that for me is to be able to understand people's strengths and weaknesses within the team. When you find a way to be able to bring out those strengths in people and find a way for everyone to be able to clearly communicate, it makes people want to be better. It makes people more comfortable. And I think in those elements, if you can find that true success, it'll create a winning platform.
It was a great comment, and I could not agree more because I see it as well. And it is such an important element within a team for everybody to understand where they're really good and maybe where somebody else is a little bit better. And so
Right.
it helps everybody feel a lot more engaged when they're doing things that they're already confident in and have some competency in. That's a great comment. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts.
Sure. I think working in teams can be very beneficial and very challenging. We are working with people. We are working with lots of different personalities and different backgrounds and diversity. And so I think that where I always come back to at the core of myself and working with teams is transparency. I think people, when they lead with complete transparency, communication and transparency just becomes it becomes pivotal to getting people to engage within an organization. When people start to trust you and they know that when you say you operate with transparency, that you mean it and you follow up with that, people begin to trust you. And when you can get a team to that point, they're likely to be much more engaged because they respect you and they trust you. And those are the platform of any success.
That's another great comment, because you're right. Transparency really does aid in that, what I call speed to trust, to really help people get there. You're absolutely right. I love that. Mm-hmm. Question number 4, what other piece of advice do you have for leaders of teams?
Sure. I have a couple of different ones, I guess. I think a couple of the core foundations for me that it comes down to is communication is number 1 for me. Respect individuality, right? Everybody is different. And when we learn to respect people and where they come from, their backgrounds, what their strengths are, team members can really build off of that. And I think that's incredibly important. Encourage creativity, right? People are, like we're saying this whole time, I'm sort of talking about creativity and being innovative and thinking outside the box. And I think when you encourage creativity, the brainstorming that comes from that is remarkable, and people sort of come out of their shell, and a lot of success can come from that. And then I think the last one is when we talk about running teams, and I think defining roles is really important. Oftentimes you'll see where, there's been some actual studies as well where people have said, we're not going to define roles. We're all going to be on equal level. There's no hierarchy. And it hasn't gone very well. And it's not to say there has to be a boss and subordinates and whatnot, but you need clear leaders. You need people who are going to drive the business forward. I think, running without hierarchy is just not going to get you where you need to be. So I think people understanding what their true roles are absolutely critical in making sure that people are engaged in the team.
Yeah, that's again, so such great suggestions, because you're right. That part is the definition of roles is critical to any team success. So absolutely agree. Question number 5.
Don't have it, Sean, where do you go from there, right?
Right.
you want to grow. Part of what I like to do with people is look at their growth strategy. So when I'm helping coach people, if we don't have defined roles, where are you going from there? How do we get you there? How do we make you feel good that you've accomplished something? So that's why I think the defined roles are really important.
Absolutely. Great points. Great points. Question number 5. What other successful leaders of teams would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence in your life?
So when you ask that, do you mean like an actual person that has?
It could be a person, it could be a philosophy or a strategy, it could be a person that you've met, a person that's been directly involved in your life, pretty much anyone that's that you kind of look to as someone that's been either a mentor or even now a colleague, coworker, anyone really.
Sure. I think one person that really comes to mind is one of my clients. His name is Pierre Obey. And he is the COO of Tech Savvy, which is a telecom provider in Canada. So I work very closely in Canada and the United States. He's always been someone who is very, very good with his teams, and that's what we're talking about today, overcoming challenges. So he's somebody I think I've always admired, and he's always been incredibly helpful for me without expecting anything in return.
Well, it sounds like a great individual. Thank you for recognizing him. Well, last question. Tell us about your first job.
I had fun with that one, Sean, because there's been a couple of different ones. So I'm going to say something a little bit funny here. When I was 6, I built a library underneath the storage, that you used to get underneath stairs. And yeah. I built a whole library there, and I had all my office supplies, and it just became evident that I loved business. And so at the age of 12, my mother worked at Serenity House. It's a drug and alcohol addiction treatment program in Canada. And so my first job was answering phones within that field and within that mental health sector. So that was really my first job, and I absolutely loved it.
Wow. Even at such a young age, getting an early start. Good for you.
Yes.
That is great. Gina, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
You can find me at our website. It's GemTek, GMTK.org. You can find me on LinkedIn as well as Gina Matteson. And my email is gina@gemtek.org.
Fantastic. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can go to teamengagementpodcast.com and download our engagement booster tip sheet to get some ideas on how to boost engagement from hiring all the way to the time when you have to part ways with the employee. Again, that's teamengagementpodcast.com. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great day.